Good morning, friends. I am out in the park, and as I think about what to share with you in this month of November, this month of Thanksgiving, I can't think of a better story to share with you than Sophie's, obviously, name changed. And I just want to preface this by saying that the verse that's been on my mind as I think about November and Thanksgiving is a verse in Luke that goes something like, "Give and it will be given to you, pressed down, running over, measure for measure." And I'm not quoting it exactly, but it's just this, when I see it, it's this image of abundant generosity, of the pouring out of what we have and of God multiplying that and giving more and more to us and to those that we have given to. And so I want to share with you the stories of how your abundant generosity is truly transforming lives. So Sophie came to us about 2 months ago. She was 7 months pregnant, using weed pretty heavily, and she was also on the verge of homelessness, which is part of why we took her on. Sophie became homeless within about a week of us taking us on. And I have to tell you, this was a very tough journey with Sophie. We usually only provide 7 to 10 days of hotel emergency housing. With Sophie, I think we ended up giving her like 2 weeks of emergency housing in the hotel, which was very expensive. But there just was nowhere for her to go. So something that you should know about pregnant women in Connecticut is that the state no longer funds transitional housing programs for pregnant women. So a lot of the houses closed or became shelters, and there's only, I know currently, of 2, maybe 3 homes in the entire state. I'm sure there are others, I'm still learning, but there's very few programs for pregnant women to go. And obviously, Sophie is very young. She's 18 or 19 years old. She's never really held a job that could provide for her. There's absolutely no way that she could, with a child, have the funds to maintain an apartment. So she needs a transitional program. So we spent 2 weeks calling everyone we know, trying to find a place for her to get in. And the staff, the mentors were amazing. They kind of held her hand through it. They coached her through what to do, and they got her into a place with one of our partners. Well, this is where the story gets kind of crazy, because this is the reality of working, especially when you're working with the young ones, the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 18-year-olds. They're children, right? They're children. We're asking them to live in the world of an adult. And you have to keep in mind that not only are they children still, their trauma started when they were very young. When she was trafficked, she was maybe 14, 15 years old. So that's, your mind can sometimes get kind of stuck at that age, the age where you first experience trauma. So, in some ways, Sophie acts like she's 40 years old. Some ways she acts like she's 14 years old. So we got her into a housing program. You're not supposed to use substances in this housing. And there's a curfew you have to abide by. And also, there's just kind of this expectation that you're respectful to the staff. Sophie blew that housing in about 3 weeks. She broke all the rules, and it ended up becoming unsafe for her to stay in that place, for the staff's sake and for her as well. It just was not a good fit. So she was back in a hotel, and we're once again scrambling to figure out what do we do. And this is where the mentor program, I feel like, really shone, where you guys really empowered us and Sophie to change her life, because we've been building rapport with her for the last 2 months, right? She's learned to trust us. She's learned how much we care about her, and I'm going to share more about that in a second. And because of that, the mentors were able to have a conversation with her that was very frank and blunt, of like, you have 2 choices in front of you. One of them is to go into a recovery program, stop using weed. And the other one is, honestly, frankly, to be homeless and lose your child. And this was a conversation that we tried having with her when we first took her, and she was not ready to hear it. She was like, no, we're going to figure out another option. There has to be another way. I don't have a problem. The weed helps with my anxiety, which is true. It does help with the very high anxiety from the trauma, but it also was harming her life and her child's life. But after 2 months of her mentors just showing up faithfully, walking with her, being honest with her, but being kind with her, she was ready to have that conversation. And so when she became homeless again, she agreed to go into a recovery program for pregnant women, where she will be able to live for the next several months. They'll help her get into transitional housing after that. It's an amazing program for her. And that's just one piece. So that's huge. First of all, Sophie is housed for the foreseeable future. She feels safe. She gets to keep the baby because it's recovery housing. But more than that, when we shared with some of our volunteers that Sophie was pregnant and was due any day, they said, we want to do a baby shower for her. And so a church in, I believe, Torrington, forgive me guys, I can't remember the name of the church off the top of my head, but a church in Torrington came together and threw an amazing baby shower for Sophie. I mean, they got her so many gifts that they had to drive it down in a van because we couldn't fit it in our cars. And I'll share in the email a picture of Sophie just beaming with these gifts, knowing that her baby is totally provided for, that she is totally provided for, and knowing that it was the church that came together to provide her, you know, this love and support. And it's just been amazing to watch the transformation. It's been 2 months, friends. 2 months since we started working with Sophie, and she's already in a completely different place. She was homeless. She was using weed. She was facing the possibility of losing her baby, and she felt totally alone. She thought no one was on her side, and she was reeling from trafficking, domestic violence, trauma after trauma after trauma. And thanks to you, to your generosity poured out, pressed down, and poured out for us, for Sophie, everything has changed. She's housed. She gets to keep her baby. And more than that, she has not just the bare essentials, not just diapers, you know, not just the bare minimum, but she has beautiful things that she wanted, that she really desired to give her daughter. And she gets to build a new life with her daughter. She gets to break the cycle of generational violence that she was caught in and start a new chapter. Thanks to the church, thanks to her mentors, thanks to the program, and thanks to you guys for the support that you've given her, for the community that you've wrapped her in, financially, physically, spiritually. We're just so thankful. So thank you for giving so generously. Thank you for working with us to empower Sophie to transform her life. As we walk towards Thanksgiving, this is just one of the many stories that I'll be sharing with you of how thankful we are. Till next time.